If you're using Skeleton CSS, it's usually for one of two purposes: to either create a prototype or to use it as a quick boilerplate to create a page in which you want to load really fast due to its small file size. I've uploaded the project that we just created to a server, and I ran a Google Insights page speed test on it. Now, if you know anything about SEO, which is search engine optimization, then you know how absolutely crucial your site's loading time is, which can affect your search engine result positions. So as you can see, mobile actually needs work for our project, as it only scored a 76 out of a possible 100. Now it gives us a list of possible suggested fixes, one of which is to minify the CSS. Now because we're using Gulp, minifying CSS is made really easy. But I don't want to just minify the CSS, which means to remove unnecessary whitespace and comments. I also want to merge the three CSS files that we're working with in order to reduce server requests through a package called concat CSS. And once minifying that bundled CSS, I want to run an awesome package called uncss. So first, let's install the package with npm that will concatenate all of our files, which means to merge them into one. So in the project folder in the console, we'll run npm install gulp-concat-css and save it as a development dependency. Once that's complete, let's head back to our gulp file.js, and we're going to import it at the top. We'll name it concat CSS, and we require the package that we just installed. All right, now what we need to do is pass in a new task that will create named CSS in the second argument of our serve task. So just right here, we pass in the CSS task. And then we're also going to add it right here. And we put in through back brackets CSS and add the final bracket here. All right, and then we have to actually create the task of CSS. So just over here, gulp task, we'll name it CSS. Inside of here, we're going to return gulp source method, and we're going to pass in all of our CSS files. Now, if we simply use a wildcard for this, the order may get messed up and not the correct order. So essentially what we need to do, I'm going to specify in order which CSS files need to be added. So /CSS, we're going to start with skeleton. Next, we'll pass in normalize. And then finally, our main CSS. Then we're going to pass in a pipe, and we're going to concat them. And we pass in the name of the new file that merges all of those CSS rule sets. At the end, we put in another pipe, and we use gulp destination, and we'll just leave it in the same CSS folder. All right, great. So let's go ahead and save this, and then we'll head on over to our index.html file and only reference the new bundle CSS that will be generated. And this will speed up the site by reducing server requests. So we'll remove this, and we'll simply reference bundle CSS. Awesome. So now let's go ahead and run our gulp command. So we'll come here, run gulp. All right, going back to our code editor, if we come here, we'll see the new bundle CSS file. Now, nothing has really changed with the exception that it just combined those three files together. Now, if we open up the actual file explorer, we'll see that this file right here, if we extend it just a little bit further, the file size is 21 KB, and these three added up here are 23 KB. So there's a little bit of a reduction on the file size. Now, we can even take this a step further by minifying our CSS now. So let's go back to our console. We'll hit Control-C to stop this. And then we'll run npm install gulp-clean-css and save it once again as a development dependency. Then once finished, we'll head back over to our gulp file. We'll create a variable. This is going to be var clean CSS equals require gulp clean CSS. And then just right after our concat is where we add in a new pipe. Now this will change to clean CSS. Inside of here, we're going to pass in an option, and we put in compatibility to IE8. Okay, so now let's save this and rerun our gulp command. All right. Now if we go back and look at the file size, it went from 21 KB and we cut it in half. So if we go back to our code editor and take a look at what exactly happened, we'll see that everything has been placed on one line, and there's also no white space or even any comments. So this helps saving file size tremendously. So what we want to do now, we're not just done yet. To make this even smaller, we're going to install a package called uncss, which allows you to specify your HTML files, and it will compare it against your CSS rule sets and remove any of those unused CSS rule sets. So let's go back to our console. We'll stop our server once again. We'll run npm install gulp-uncss and save it as a development dependency. And then we'll go back here to our code editor in our gulp file. And one last time, just to make our life a little bit easier, we'll copy this, call this one uncss. And this is going to be simply gulp uncss. And we're going to add this one just after merging the files with concat. So we run uncss, and then we pass in an object which accepts your HTML files. So we put in HTML index.html. All right, let's go ahead and save this. One last time, we'll go back to our console here. We'll run gulp. And there we go. It went from first it was 21 kilobytes to 10, and now just down to 5. Awesome. So now I've re-uploaded the more optimized result and reran the page speed test. It increased from 75 to 79, which isn't a huge improvement, but then again, this is a tiny project. So hopefully you learned a lot throughout this course and now have a new skill set for use when prototyping and creating landing pages. I'm Gary Simon, and I'll see you next time.